This Family Life News podcast is made possible by the support of listeners like you.
This is Capital Connection. Fridays during the Noon Report, we give you direct connection to all that's happening in Albany and Harrisburg with the experts on the issues at the state capitals. They are, as always, Jason McGuire with New York Families and Michael Geer at the Pennsylvania Family Institute. Well, welcome back, gentlemen. Michael, I want to begin with you and the governor's big speech back on Tuesday, a more than $53 billion budget proposal. Got to wonder what's in there that you like, what's in there that you don't like, and how realistic is it to assume that they'll get an on-time budget this year?
Well, the speech itself was more of a campaign speech, but when looking in the details of the budget, it's more of the priorities that the governor's had previously, which is more spending. So we have fights ahead of us. But it was clear in his speech, he's running for more than governor, I think.
Yeah. Last week, Jason, we were wondering when she'll sign it, and she has signed it. Governor Hochul now signing what she calls the Medical Aid in Dying Act, and that law will take effect in 6 months in New York, allowing physician-assisted suicide. Jason, what's going to happen in those 6 months as we get ready for this new law?
Yeah, I mean, it's just a terrible day for New York that we're now crossing that bridge, and we've entered the era of state-sanctioned suicide here in the Empire State. In the next 6 months, the Department of Health will be drawing up regulations regarding how this will work and how you'll get the deadly drugs to take one's own life. And I can tell you that they've already been working hand in glove with the advocates, the pro-suicide position. Compassionate Choices have been all over this, working with the Department of Health to get what they want in those regulations.
We've been told there will be no coercion of doctors that morally object to this. Do you think that will be the case?
Well, as often happens with these kinds of controversial pieces of legislation where religious liberty may be involved, is they begin by putting in those protections, but then almost immediately there are those that come out to try to strip away those protections in the legislative sessions to come. And even the public comments already made by the activists for assisted suicide, they're indicating they'll be back for more, that those safeguards will not stand.
All right, we'll see in 6 months. It becomes law in New York. There's no putting that genie back in the bottle either. Michael, let's get back to the governor and his big speech on Tuesday. I thought it was interesting. He only really mentioned marijuana in a sentence, and he called it cannabis reform. The House continues to beat this drum for pot. The Senate has so far resisted. I wonder, why is this bad fiscal policy apart from the harmful effects that it has on society and the culture at large?
Well, a significant part of the governor's speech dealt with issues like mental health problems here in our state, and yet the legalization of marijuana would exacerbate many of those problems. It would lead to family decline, it would lead to mental health problems, schizophrenia, driving under the influence, all of these kinds of things, and they think they make it up with the revenue that comes in from marijuana. You know, you asked me in the first question about whether this budget will be done on time. The governor wants it to happen. It's an election year, and so they're going to push for that. But issues like this one that are very sticky wickets may delay the budget as it goes forward.
Yeah, Jason, New York State Democrats holding their party convention in Syracuse today. They're pretty optimistic about their chances in 2026. The governor is going to use this political pep rally to really rail against ICE. I know they're going to make a big thing about how the Empire State is pushing back against the federal enforcement efforts here. She's got this local cops, local crimes initiative, which would bar state and local police from assisting ICE on non-criminal matters. Is this a risky position for the governor to take in an election year?
Well, I think it is risky depending upon the results. It's not risky from a poll position right now. There's a lot of opposition to ICE in New York State, as we are a heavily Democratic state. But if you look at what happened in Minneapolis, it's when there was no involvement, no coordination, no collaboration between ICE and local law enforcement. You had the very difficult situations there that did occur. Mm-hmm. When local law enforcement can actually provide crowd control and can back up the efforts that ICE are engaged in, then the public is kept safe. So it is a risky position for the governor if more ICE involvement moves to New York and she refuses to engage with local law enforcement.
Yeah. Michael, back to the governor's speech on Tuesday. I didn't hear much about school choice. I know he's had a position in favor of that in the past. Last week was National School Choice Week. I've seen polls that show anywhere from 60 to 80% of Americans support school choice. Did you hear anything in the governor's speech that would lead you to think that he'd be willing to play ball on this issue this year?
No, he didn't really touch that issue at all, and it's one of those, again, 60 to 80% in support kind of issues that Democrats, and especially Governor Shapiro, choose to ignore. He's ignored the support for protecting girls' sports. And so with the issue of school choice, the governor, when he first ran for office, said he wanted school choice. He has a big decision ahead of him with the big, beautiful bill, school choice tax credit program, to opt Pennsylvania in. We're hoping at least there'll be some pressure for him to do that as he seeks another term as governor.
Jason, there was a landmark case in Westchester County, New York this week, a jury awarding a detransitioner $2 million, claiming that the doctors who performed the mastectomy when she was just 16 are guilty of medical malpractice. How big of a ruling was this?
I think it's an enormous ruling, and the fact that it came out of New York is particularly significant, too, as you thought this was one of the last holdouts in these types of things. So it really came from a court here in what is a very liberal state. What is happening is you're beginning to see the pushback that I think it will take to finally break that back of the transgender movement. And that is, you're going to see the lawsuits. People will respond to that. You already have seen the Plastic Surgeons Association backing away from these child mutilation procedures. You're seeing even the American Medical Association now walking it back. And I think that's a response to medical associations saying, we don't want to run the risk of being sued over these matters. So follow the dollars, and you'll begin to see the whole transgender movement begin to unravel.
Yeah. Michael, I know that you've been watching this landmark case as well, because there are hospitals in your state that are doing this very thing even today, despite the laws against it. Your reaction to this landmark ruling out of Westchester County, New York, and the precedent that that might send to any hospital or doctor that might be thinking of this sort of procedure on a minor?
Well, just exactly what Jason said there, follow the money. There's been lots of money for this so-called gender-affirming care at places like Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, and state tax dollars up to more than $20 million since 2016 being spent on these procedures that mutilate children. But with these lawsuits and with now these national medical organizations speaking out against it, I think there's going to be a quick reversal, and that's something we've been calling for a long time.
Quick follow-up, Michael, that is not to do with this issue, but I thought it was interesting because there was a bill put forth in the state house last week by 3 Republicans that would allow the courts to order chemical castrations for convicted pedophiles. Is this something that the PA Family Institute would support?
Well, interestingly, these drugs that they're talking about for these chemical castrations are some of the same drugs that are actually used in the so-called gender-affirming care. So they're talking about castrating prisoners, but then we have this happening with children going into doctors and being prescribed this sort of thing.
Wow.
So back to the specifics of this legislation. It was just introduced. We're going to look more closely at it. And certainly the issue of pedophilia and continued sex abuse of children is something that needs to be addressed.
Yep. And then we'll end with you, Jason. The governor has made funding child care a major legislative priority this year. I got to wonder, what are some of the things that New York could do? Not that they would ever do this. I mean, in a perfect world, let's put ourselves there. What are some things the state could do from a public policy perspective so that both parents of young children do not have to feel obligated to work outside the home?
You're going to hear the word affordability a lot this year. That seems to be the buzzword both at national and state elections this cycle. But listen closely to the policies. Just because the buzzword is used doesn't mean that elected official is actually moving policies that would make the state or the nation more affordable. There are things the state could do, but one of those things will be not setting up another big bloated government program that will simply mean more taxation, causing parents to have to find additional sources of income. We've got to lower the cost of government and the overall size and scope of government so we can lower taxes and make families affordable again in this state.
All right. Families thrive, governments thrive. Maybe someday somebody will figure that out. Guys, we've had a great discussion today. If you have questions about any of these topics or you simply want to learn more about New York families doing a great work in Albany, Jason, where can folks find you online?
NewYorkFamilies.org.
Stay informed on all the issues in Pennsylvania as well. Michael, where can folks find you?
PAFamily.org.
Thank you for listening to this Family Life News podcast. If you've been encouraged by what you've heard, please share it with others and click the subscribe button to automatically receive future episodes. Family Life is a listener-supported ministry. Podcasts like this are made possible by your financial partnership. Find out more at familylife.org.